believe that a full-blown tax revolt is any solution. In fact, it has devastating consequences, if indeed it could ever be pulled off, because the reality is that it would be extremely difficult to pull it off. 80% of our taxes are really paid over by big business, which make up VAT, PAYE and company taxes, if you add those three together. And unless big business joins in, and they're not going to do that, and coordinates this, it's never going to happen. So it's impractical, but it has devastating consequences, because you never recover from a tax revolt. And the people that get hurt the most are the poor, and the very people calling for it do not understand the consequences of declined security, borders, posts, border posts, ports, and so forth. You cannot manage a country in a full tax revolt, and the devastating effects thereof are difficult to recover from for many, many years.
So from Outer's point of view, notwithstanding the fact that there are concerns about corruption, this is not the way to go.
No, we need to fix corruption. And don't get me wrong, we're not going soft on corruption. That issue has to be tackled, and seriously tackled. We've got to keep the pressure up on government to do that. And what we've called for in last year's medium-term budget speech, and again coming up in the next budget announcements, is no increases in taxes until government demonstrates that it is tackling corruption, maladministration, and the waste of taxpayers' money. So we want to see concerted efforts from government in that regard. But a full-blown tax revolt is not the way to go. Putting pressure on government to deal with corruption and deal with it meaningfully is the way to go, and that's Outer's work.
When you talk about the ability to pull it off, are you in a way questioning Helen Zille's influence? Is nobody listening to her?
Yeah, I think so. I think what we're saying is that Helen Zille hasn't given much thought to this process. Calling for a tax revolt or trying to lead one is one thing. Making it really happen or actually coming to fruition is another. We don't believe that that call is practical. And so what we're saying, again, this is potentially just politicking at its best.
So why do you think the conversation gained so much traction?
Because she made that comment. Look, I mean, many people have been calling for a tax revolt for many years. In fact, Outer, over the last number of years, has had to field a lot of questions as to why we aren't driving it, because I guess in relation to our successful revolt against the e-toll matter, and that's a very different matter. A lot of people say it's a bit rich for us saying no to a tax revolt. It's different,
but you also can't completely say successful.
What? The e-toll?
Yes.
It has been extremely successful because it's dropped down to 25%
It's not conclusive,
compliance.
though.
Well, no, the lights are on and they're sending out the invoices, but no one's paying. So it's a very successful tax revolt, in the sense that it is a very focused revolt on an irrational tax around e-tolls, and that's a 2 billion rand bill as opposed to a 1.2 trillion rand tax income. So it's an issue that relates to an irrational tax policy, and when government makes irrational tax policies and calls, it is the obligation of society to bring it to their attention and sometimes to behave in the way that we've called for and the way that the public have reacted on the e-toll matter. But that's a very different matter when it comes to...
Who are these people who have been approaching you to drive this process, and how have you been responding to them?
General citizens. People are frustrated with their tax money being maladministered and used corruptly, as we've seen in the State Capture Commission and the SARS Commission, and you see now in the PIC inquiries and so forth. The revelations of waste of taxpayers' money is exorbitant, and people are fed up. They're absolutely angry. And so you can see that tax revolts start to take place in a silent manner. A lot of deals are taking place with cash now. Less transactions are being put through the books so as to minimize payments of VAT and so forth. And I think SARS is very aware of this. Treasury is very aware of this. The Minister of Finance is very aware of this. And what we need to do is to work with government to find the solutions to make sure that our taxpayers' money is administered properly. Politics, however, sadly gets in the way, and not only at national government level. This problem is becoming even bigger down at local level.
Does Outer think that the call by these people has been vindicated with all the outcomes of the SARS inquiry and all the corruption allegations we've been hearing from the State Capture Commission?
I think the people are frustrated, but in a better off position to watch this space as the elections unfold. We were expecting a lot more when Cyril Ramaphosa came into power last year this time. But the journey to undo this problem that we have is not an overnight process. It takes a long time. It takes a while. But the frustration and the impatience is creeping in, and what we need to see is meaningful action by the President.
So when we started to learn about OUTA, it was, as you say, your fight for the taxes to be paid on the roads. What is your main emphasis now?
Well, we were set up to defy the e-toll decision. It was a rational decision, more so in the face that there was an alternative, which had they applied, would have already settled those bonds. Yeah, much, much better. And government needs to choose the options when it has alternatives that are best in the interest of society and its people. And that's our stance on the e-toll matter. But 3 years ago, we were asked to broaden our mandate and go into tackling the corruption and maladministration of taxpayers' money on many fronts. And we've opened up 115 projects in the last 3 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And working with the parliamentary portfolio committees, giving input, as well as fighting and challenging and laying charges against corrupt politicians, corrupt people within state-owned institutions, tackling the water crises. So along many fronts, OUTA has had a very...
Are you making headway?
Yes, we are. You know, about 30% of those projects have come to fruition with an 83% success rate. These projects take years sometimes. We have a delinquent director charge against Duvenage, the former chairman of SAA, and that's just one of many cases. So we have a lot of work and we have a lot more to do as society.
Do you think society is sufficiently aware of what you do?
No, I don't think so. You know, it's one thing to do this work. We have about 50 staff.
In fact, I saw over the weekend in the newspapers that you have a new appointment to liaise with government. I was going to ask you about that as well, why you think there needs to be that link.
Well, we're challenging government both at national and local level. We have a business division that's being set up right now. We have a parliamentary office which we opened last year, and it's been very, very influential and effective in engaging with Parliament. So, you know, you can be adversarial in many instances, but you can also be engaging and very productive and proactive in our approach. So it's a multifaceted approach that we take in raising the issues that concern citizens. But I don't think everybody knows what we do. We wish that a lot more people did, because we rely purely on the support of society and citizens, not on big business, on citizens. We don't get donations from overseas, from donor organizations. Yeah. We work on behalf of the people of this country.
How beneficial is your work to society? What's the use of having OUTA?
Well, if less money is squandered, if less money is wasted, if more people who act corruptly are held accountable and put in jail, eventually what happens is the money gets put to better use, and that filters right down to the poorest of the poor, and all citizens in this country benefit from taxes that are used efficiently, so that we can fix the whole health system, that education can be addressed, security can be addressed, we can bring down the electricity tariffs. Yeah. We've been working very hard in the energy sector, giving submissions in at nurses' hearings to make sure that they're aware of the challenges that they have to bring to Eskom. And had they done their job better, just up from 7 years ago up to now, we wouldn't be facing the 400% increase in energy tariffs that we've had over the last decade.
Government has been talking a lot about being on a path to economic recovery. What is OUTA's response to this? Do you see a difference? Do you think we're turning a page? Is it going to be more of the same?
You know, government's been doing a lot of good work in the fact that they are addressing the state-owned institutions, turning them around, getting the boards right and starting to address, but it's a little too late in some respects, because we have a big hole to get out of. So the talk is good, but talk is cheap, and it's money that buys the whiskey, as a friend of mine keeps reminding me. We need
bring it last.
We need to make sure that this activity around fighting corruption takes place far more stringently. And what we're really concerned about is that in the state capture commissions, we have a situation where not enough hawks, not enough NPA people there taking the notes and taking action against those who are implicated.
Wayne, let's wrap this conversation. What should the voters be looking out for as they go towards the election?
They should be holding those who are accountable, who have been maladministering our finances to account. They should be asking them the tough questions. Why is it year after year, election after election, do we still sit in this situation, a quarter of a century into our new democracy, we really should be far better off than where we are right now. And so vote for parties that really do fight corruption.
Thanks very much for making the time.
Thank you.
Wayne Duvenage is with the organization Undoing Tax Abuse.